Before we started, I asked you how you were doing. You said you were doing good. You're in a good mood. You're happy. I figured you caught a paycheck or something. And and you're like, no, I was gonna go to China, but now I'm not going. You can blame James Harden for that shit. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You can hang that one on James Harden.
Hey, James got him excited, man. Did you see when he got there and all the fans
it was like when people used to mob Michael Jackson. Like when you would see Michael Jackson walk into like an arena somewhere and people would just follow him with the phones and people trying to get pictures over the cars. And that's what that reminded me of. I did see that.
Hey, the China, I know we had the little issues a couple years ago when Daryl Morey said what he said, but the Chinese fan base is crazy. It was always good, but then the league got yao, and then it went bananas after that. And then, you had the insanity moment. But the fan base there is incredible, man. And I was pretty upset when I know a lot of people, we're not going to get into politics and all that stuff, but we just talk about fans as a whole. They're great.
Yeah. And that's, I think when it comes to the NBA in China, probably the best place to leave it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, politics aside, they love the game of basketball.
Yes,
they love the league.
The
and that's, I think, as a player and as a fan of the NBA, that's what you want. You just want passionate fans that love the game. Politics aside, because there's a whole bunch of shit going on there that it ain't even worth.
It drives me crazy trying to figure that out.
Dude, untangle that web, man.
Mm-hmm. And I think outside of Yao, like China, I don't think China has ever embraced or loved a player like they did Kobe.
Shaquille, I think, had a big
but
Tracy McGrady.
And Tracy McGrady, but it just seemed like anytime Kobe was there.
Oh, let's back up. Let's not forget Starberry.
True. Because he played over there.
He played over there. So he had.
Did he have a statue over there?
Yes,
he does. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Never mind. Outside world, Starberry first.
Outside of this 15, 20 people.
Yeah, but no, Kobe's following was incredible too. I saw I had the pleasure of seeing how they reacted to him one time, and I was like, wow. Like, it was like he was 1 million and Yao was like 150. That's how big that Kobe was compared to Yao in China. It was incredible.
Man. Well, I mean, so James Harden is I think, right out of the gates for me. This is probably the one topic that hit me repeatedly in the face this week for the NBA, because he's in China. Obviously, we know that. But it was what he said about Daryl Morey this week when he was in China. He was doing his camp, and if you can hear it, I'm going to play the audio for you. He's in a gymnasium. He's talking to a whole bunch of people, so the audio is a little tough to hear, but you get the gist of it.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of.
So he says it twice. He goes, in case you didn't catch me, Daryl Morey's a liar, and I will never play for an organization that he's a part of.
Usually when you say it twice, you mean it.
Yeah. Because he did the whole, let me repeat myself in case there was any question as to what I'm saying here.
Can you understand the words that are coming out
of my mouth?
Yes.
And now here we are, though, James Harden holding another team hostage. Now this is like the James Harden hostage situation part 3.
Yeah. So as an organization, do you get rid of Daryl Morey or did you get rid of James Harden? Because he didn't say he didn't want to play for the Sixers. He said he didn't want to play with Daryl Morey in the front office. So as an owner, who do you get rid of?
Well, the easier one to get rid of is Daryl Morey.
Exactly.
Right.
You don't ever, if you have a transcending player and he's a big piece to moving forward, you don't get it is a lot easier to move on from a GM than it is to move on from a star player. I don't care how you feel about the star player. And Philadelphia, if they're gonna have any chance of being successful moving forward, James Harden got to be a part of that with Joel Embiid. So Daryl Morey will probably be the odd man out.
I agree that he's the easier piece to move on from. I don't know if he's the one you want to move on from, though. I feel like once James Harden has made up his mind that he doesn't want to play, that's it. We've seen him set. We watched him do it to the Rockets. We watched him, terribly to the Rockets. We watched him do it to the Nets.
And that was with Daryl Morey then, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. He was still the GM there, I believe. I think the problem is even if you decide that you want to move on from Daryl Morey, what do you have that says that James Harden will be James Harden again? You know what I mean? Like, he'll show up in shape. He'll play hard. He'll want to win. He'll bust his ass and not just fold it up stakes and go, well, I didn't get what I wanted, so now I'm just not going to play.
I think if it was me, I'll get rid of Daryl Morey. Because if you really think about it, James is an incredible talent. He can get hot. He's a good complement to Embiid as far as you need a bucket. But I just think Daryl Morey, he's one of those guys that you can get rid of because, I've had the pleasure of riding on a trip with the Rockets and getting to meet Daryl Morey, and he's a little too smart for his own good. And sometimes when you have those people who think outside the box, especially when it comes to basketball, because basketball is simple. Sometimes these guys, he's a big analytical guy. And let's be honest, as a GM, everybody was like, okay, he did a great job in Houston, but they didn't win a championship. So it's like, okay, move on from that. And then he had that he caused that big controversy with the NBA. Move on from that. Yeah. And for me, I'm just like, I think he's a smart guy. He would be great in any and everything he touched, but basketball. I think if I'm the Sixers, I say, okay, I'm moving along from Daryl.
And at the same time, from a logistics standpoint, it's easier to move away from the GM than it is a star player who you're paying a certain amount of money. And I know he's under contract one more year.
One more year.
How much is he making? North of 35 million, probably somewhere close to 40.
He took less. He took less money. You remember?
Right, but he's still in between 30 and 40 million.
Yeah.
So it's significant.
So my thing is not only the money, but you're going to have a hard time also trying to trade a guy like that to another team because they're like, well, wait a minute. Even if this is mostly James Harden's fault and he's holding another team hostage, another organization can look at it like, who's to say he won't do the same thing with us when he's not getting his way?
He took his. Yeah. By the way, he took his player option for 35.6.
Okay.
Yeah,
so 35.
Is it weird that in this day and age that when I say upper echelon players, I'm talking about him, Westbrook, KD, LeBron. Isn't it amazing how many times they changed teams?
Yeah.
If you think about Kobe,
if you
Kobe
put
didn't
those...
go nowhere. Dirk went nowhere. And the only time you go somewhere is like you think about Dream and Patrick. They were the last years of they careers, and they went somewhere else just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
But I just can't. It's just crazy how these star players just move so much. But I guess that's what the flexibility of the NBA has.
Here's the thing, though. You gave the three examples of the guys that I think that have moved the most. In those three that were originally together in OKC, Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. Those guys can't seem to settle. But when you look at guys like Steph Curry, Draymond Green, they've been with the Warriors for that whole stretch. I don't see Giannis leaving Milwaukee anytime soon. We know Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are going to be staying in Boston. So I don't think I think when you're looking at those three guys specifically, it's easy to go, oh, yeah, man, star players moving around a lot. LeBron's moved a fair amount. I'll give you that. But he went Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland, and then out to L.A. But
here's the difference with LeBron, though. Even though he's moved around a few times, LeBron has never requested out. He's never requested to be traded. Anytime that he's left, it's because he was a free agent.
Yes.
He was a free agent. So when you have that, you can do whatever. And here's the difference between a lot of those other guys, Steph, Giannis, versus your Russell Westbrooks and your Hardens. Those guys, their
Paul
game, their game affects their personal games affect the game in such a way in which it breeds winning basketball. And I'm not knocking Russ. I'm not knocking James. I'm not knocking any of those guys because they're future Hall of Famers. But even with being a future Hall of Famer, their games don't necessarily say winning basketball. Steph's does.
Yeah.
Greek Freaks does.
Well, Durant should.
His does too. It's just his mentality sometimes has always just kind of been like, yo, I got the game of an A+ player. I have the game of one of the greatest players of all time. It's kind of, in a sense, like AD. But mentally, sometimes you're like, okay, but do you have the mindset to do it? Like Steph got the mindset to do it. Kawhi had the mindset to do it. Greek Freak has the mindset to do it, where it's kind of like, I got the game and I got the mental fortitude, and I'm gonna put it all together.
Yeah. But I get your point, Rob. You're used to seeing guys. I mean, you played with guys like that. Hakeem, you mentioned. I mean, Tim Duncan, Manu, Tony, all those dudes just stuck it out. They made it work. Yeah. Kobe, they stuck it out and they made it work. So it's hard to watch guys that are superstars in this league not stay with a city, not stay with a fan base. But for James Harden, man,
because you got even think about Jimmy Butler's been on a couple of teams, and
you
got
now, Jimmy's moved around a fair amount. Yeah.
Now Damian Lillard's trying to move on, and then I wonder, like, Jason Tatum has been in the news a lot lately, But so I'm just like, these guys, they getting now where they make so much money, and they still trying to move. You realize you're making all this money, you can't go nowhere. Yeah. So it's just,
and then
too,
let me ask you a question. Don't you hit a point in your career? You never had to deal with this, but would you imagine a player hits a point in their career where you start to have to weigh getting the bag versus getting the ring?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you move around a lot, you've made a lot of money, at some point you go, well, damn it, can I stay in one place and win a championship? Can I get that drill done? And I think with Harden, it's going to be really hard for him to do that, considering the way he just changes his mind, like he changes his socks.
Rob, look at a guy like Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
When he was in Minnesota, we looked at, best player in the league for a little bit, was in Minnesota. The best thing Minnesota could put around him in his stretch was an old Sam Cassell, no disrespect, and Latrell Sprewell, if he wasn't choking folks out. So in that span of time, I looked at it from the standpoint of, yo, KG, you're loyal to a fault to a franchise that won't put anything around you. And he probably stayed longer than what he probably should have.
Well, you got to also understand, you forget who beat them. Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right.
You could have a great team. You just come around the wrong time. It's just how it is. And I think when he went to Boston, you look around the league, there was no like dominant teams except when the Lakers got Pau Gasol. Okay, here it is. It was no team outside of the Spurs that was like, okay, they had like a core guys that could beat you. And Dallas had the core guys. And then, LeBron went to Miami. So he came around at the right time. And how many championships did he win in Boston, though?
One.
See,
big 3-1.
Got the two, but ran into them boys.
Yeah. That window of opportunity is small because there's, like, you think about it. Nowadays, these teams, when they get good, like, you think about when the LA had the run, and you had Golden State had the run, San Antonio have a run. And now it's like, okay, the league is trying to, even out, and you don't have these quote unquote dynasties anymore. So it's if you have a good team and you run into one of these dynasties, you're like, damn it. Yep. Because you don't get that chip, man.
Yep.
Hey, CC Charles Barkley, CC Patrick Ewing, CC Reggie Miller. It's a lot of legends that you can sit up there and they can listen to this and they still shaking their head to this day and say, we ran into that damn Michael Jordan.
Caught the buzzsaw. Just was what it was. So let me ask you this then, Rob. What do you think? How do you think this plays out now with Harden? Do you think that the Sixers come down to that? It's move on from either Daryl Morey or James Harden?
If you really think about the Sixers, they always trust the process.
They ain't trusted the process in years. What are you talking about? That narrative has been dead for years, man. The process ended when Ben Simmons was washed out. That was it, man. That was the end.
Here's the thing, though. It's like you want to trade James to someplace, but you got to get something back for him. Him and Damian Lillard gonna be in the same.
But if you can't move James Harden, what do you do? What do you do if you're the Sixers?
You get rid of Daryl Morey. Because, at the end of the day, you got to have your players happy. This is a player that we've known from the past. If he ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So you got to make him happy and just get rid of Daryl.
That's a dangerous precedent, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a players' league now.
But that scares me.
Yeah.
To have a player be able to flex his muscle and get a GM fired.
I feel like they hired Daryl because of James. Because they was trying to keep James. They hired Daryl to bring him in and do this. And now it's like, okay, I'm sick of you, Daryl.
Well, and Daryl hadn't done anything really in Philly to make a case for here's why you absolutely have to keep me. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that is the move, but
it's a lot of GMs around the league. We ain't gonna call nobody out that you see like, damn, you still got a job.
Still working. Still working.